So saith the wise Alondo. Do, 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 do.
Hi there, welcome to Mages and Murderdads. I'm Cameron.
I'm Danny.
Last episode, we finished Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. And we liked it.
Whoa, yeah. No, it was just a real fun time.
We thought it was good. And because of some time constraint issues, and maybe just making sure we don't burn out, because that would be bad. Like burning out on these games, one game into a 4-game, I think we can say 4 games, including the expansion packs, into a 4-game series. That'd be bad. So we're taking a little break, but we thought it would be appropriate to record a Minisode.
Kind of like a little sunset episode on the first season. Kind of like gives us a chance to collect ourselves, to kind of reflect on the big story we've been talking about, the lore of the Forgotten Realms, and you know, maybe even a chance to steel ourselves for what's ahead.
And to steal money.
And to steal money.
We're robbers.
Maybe even yours.
Oh my word. We can steal your money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So maybe you could just give it to us.
How about that? So you could support the show on Patreon if you want.
Look at that transition.
I'm so good. You could also follow me on Twitter. You used to be able to follow Danny on Twitter, but that is no longer the case. You can like us on Facebook. That's actually a pretty big thing. That's been pretty nice. And you should, of course, hit the like and subscribe buttons here. If you like this show, as I've said many times on this platform and others, please share it around. Share it on Facebook. Share it with your friends. Tell your people. As during the first season, or during a few episodes ago, Danny gave a very long explanation of how you could rekindle a friendship with someone over listening to the show. That's still available to you.
Yeah, no, that is. I don't need to say that every episode because it's true. I'll just remind you, it's still an option. So
still a live option.
Say what you need to say.
So talking about the lore, Danny, what is your favorite bit of Forgotten Realms lore?
Man, there's a lot to choose from. I think that Kunzman and I were talking just before this, and he was looking at a list that orders chronologically all of the novels that take place in the Forgotten Realms. How many were there?
This is just like instances of fiction. So this is novels, short stories, that kind of thing. But there were 459 sources in this thing. I think I've still got it pulled up. I'll put it in the description for the episode.
So, I think my favorite little piece of lore, little backstory, my first D&D character, that character was in a campaign that took place in the Forgotten Realms, and that character was a barbarian, and that character's deity was Tymora. Who in the Forgotten Realms is kind of the goddess of good luck. And we talked a little bit about Tymora tangentially in the podcast. That's how much I like Tymora. And Tymora's counterpart, there are a few kind of twin or like sister or brother deities in the Forgotten Realms. Kind of Shar and Saloon as an example. We talked about that too. And Bashaba is Tymora's counterpart. Bashaba is the goddess of misfortune. But they used to be just one deity. They used to be Tyche. And Tyche got split up in a traumatic event that happened in like DR1. I'm not sure what DR stands for. But I think it's kind of like AD.
Domine Realms.
Domine Realm in the year of the realms. Yeah, so everything before DR1, that was back when the realms were not forgotten. Everyone was in the know.
The well-known realms.
The well-known realms, and then bam, just amnesia kicks in. But yeah, that's my favorite bit of lore, the fact that those two deities were once just one deity.
What caused that?
They were split up. It was one of those catastrophic events that was orchestrated by I think by Lathander was involved. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things where that's my favorite part of it, but the backstory is like a novel. You can read it in Timora's Luck.
Oh, my word.
By Jeff Grubb and Kate Novak, published in the year of our Lord, 1997.
DR 1997.
TR 1997.
Yeah, there's all kinds of like interesting the gods, I think, in the Forgotten Realms. Like for Baldur's Gate to be such a god-based game, you really don't see any of the other ones as far as I know.
Well, it's the time of troubles.
No, not in the Baldur's Gate games. It's after the Time of Troubles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's why people are actually able to cast divine spells.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, like there's a really great story, and it's actually in Baldur's Gate, but about how the original god of the dead, which is like Jurgal, had domain over murder and the dead themselves and like strife, I think. And then so Bane, Bane, Baal, and Mercule were like early adventurers in the realms, and they punched their way all the way to Jurgal, and they were going to kill him to take his powers. And he was like, yo, I don't want these powers anymore. For the love of God, it is so boring down here. So please do it for me. So they're like, that's how they attained godhood. Yeah. So you could just be like, oh, there was a pantheon split, blah, blah, blah. Or you can be like, let me tell you the long-form story about, like, throwing bones in a race and all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah. No, it's true. No, I double-checked, and it was the fact that Tyche was infected by Menander's evil essence and split apart by Saloon.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
I'm regretting the very idea of talking about lore. My favorite lore thing, despite telling the story of how the three gods of like evil in the realms got their pantheon, mine is from a Drizzt Do'Urden novel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So there's one of those, I don't even know which one it is, where he's got a panther that lives on the astral plane, and he summons it by like touching a little figurine and saying, whatever. Thinking,
is that Gwenwar?
Yeah, Gwenwar. It's like a big panther. And so his panther dies, or we think his panther dies in one of the books by falling in a giant pit of acid. And he's afraid for so long. He's afraid of, if I call on the panther, like the panther might still be alive in the astral plane. But if I bring the panther into the real world, the material plane, she might be too weak and she'll die. And so he like waits and waits and waits for a long, long time. Like whole chapters. To bring the panther back. And when he does, she's all burned by acid. She's like missing a bunch of fur, but she's okay. And that's my favorite bit of lore. Not necessarily because of the plot stuff, because there is some like fun plot there, but the idea of the astral plane and the material plane like being connected in that way, that like that the panther is safe over there and then not safe over here. I don't know. I think that's cool.
No, I think that makes sense. That reminds me of a point in our very first D&D campaign with I think you'll remember, you were playing a wizard of some type, and you had like a cloak that allowed you to blink into the astral plane, and there was a lethal attack coming your way, like a dragon's breath type attack, or maybe
a spider.
It was a spider, yeah, and basically you were dead. And then somebody at the table said, oh, no, wait, he's got this cloak. And the DM let you roll a reflex save to, like, activate the cloak or something, like, at instant speed. and you faded away to existence, and you were perfectly fine over in the astral plane.
Mm-hmm. Except that spider was a phase spider.
Oh,
And then
I remember.
And then the next turn, it just went to the astral plane. And then went after me there, where I didn't have a party to help me out.
Mm.
Join us again next week for D&D Reminisce Hour.
Mm-hmm. A semi-regular, like once every fourth episode feature.
Podcast within a podcast.
Brought to you by Dan Harmon. Not anything he does, just him.
Just Dan Harmon. Mm-hmm. Every time. So great. These are great moments. These are great lore moments we're thinking about. But as we told many people, and by many people I mean the people who listen to this podcast, we told them that we were going to read the Avatar Trilogy.
Yeah.
Which is about the Time of Troubles. Mm-hmm. The Time of Troubles, if you somehow are listening to this Baldur's Gate podcast this far and you don't know what it is, there's some probably very small minority of people who fit in that category.
I don't know. I think that you could get away with watching most of every episode we put out. Like, there's not that many Time of Troubles references explicitly, right?
Well, I just think to be on board with Baldur's Gate, you have to have an idea. Maybe you don't know the name.
Yeah.
You have the idea. So the event that brought all of the gods into mortal form to like fight it out on Earth. We're in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
On Toriel. And so that's what the Time of Troubles is. And these set of books were written and published at the same time as a set of modules, or maybe right after the modules, that were pre-written adventures for the Forgotten Realms in order to allow everyone to have these like story events occur in their world. And this was a really big thing in the late 70s and throughout the 1980s. Because this is how the official fiction for the Dragon Realms novels worked as well. Like they were modules first and then written into books afterwards. You can kind of experience it as a player and as kind of a passive reader in that kind of way. So that's what these novels are, and we were going to read all three of them to get the most amount of Ball backstory that we could. Mm-hmm. How many of these novels did you read, Danny?
I read the first book.
I also read. I got all three of them. I read a book. Because my word, these are not engaging.
Yeah, I think that you can get a microcosm of the way these books are, and they are written by different authors. So but I think I don't know why, but I feel like a great microcosm of the first book is like the prologue of the first book, which sets all of this into motion. So like we're figuring out, okay, why did the Time of Troubles even happen? And the idea is that Ao, who is this over deity.
I think you mean A.O. Scott.
A.O. Scott, the film reviewer.
For the New York Times.
For the New York Times, got really upset at all of the other film reviewers. And decided to cast them out of the New York Times editorial board.
Oh my God. He's Armand-Whiting them all.
And strand them all at lesser publications.
Oh my
where they would have to, toil in that realm of mortals.
New York Magazine, the Chicago Sun-Times, L.A. Review.
Oh, one of them ended up at USA Today.
Oh, U.S. News and World Report.
Yeah. And so why did A.O. Scott do this? Well, he was just kind of upset. He was just upset at them. And...
Well, he had a reason.
Yeah.
They stole the 3 movie tablets.
Wait, so I know we're in the conceit here, but was it really revealed why AO was that upset? Like, it kind of just says, well, you were taking everything for granted.
Yeah, outside of this AO Scott conceit, no, AO does not say that directly at all. You find that out through, like, internal monologue of Helm, who's like the god of justice.
Yeah, Helm is we get way more internality with Helm. Like there are several chapters that are or like sections that are written more or less from his point of view in like a third person type situation. But so Helm was the only deity that was not cast down to Toril. I more or less because he's Ao's bodyguard, basically. Like, he guards.
Yeah, he's the guy who like tells other people what to do. He's the right-hand man.
His symbol is that of like a gauntlet, like the universal symbol of fascism. So yeah,
that's true. Yeah, and we find out through, I think, Bane and Mercule. Bane is the god of strife, and Mercule is the god of the dead. And they're kind of set up as the antagonists of this novel, along with Ball, our good friend Ball, who is just straight up running around this novel and murdering people. That's all he does. So the basic plot conceit of it is that all the gods are cast down, and they're given the task of like doing some good stuff in order to get to go back to like weird god heaven, like whatever it is.
Or like go back to their planes that they should be running.
Their respective god heavens. And so we get a colorful cast of characters. We get a mercenary. We get a wizardess. We get a priest of Soon, who's like all about being beautiful. And then we get like an assassin guy.
Yeah, and I swear to God, there are like sections where when they are referring to this colorful cast of characters, they just use their class.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then the fighter.
and then the wizard, the level 3 wizard. So basically the idea is that all of these gods want to find these tablets of fate, I think they're called, something like that. And they want to bring them back and give them to Helm. And if they do that, they will get to go back up to the Sky Place. And then there's a bunch of all the evil gods are trying to kind of supplant the head god Ao. And just, oh my word, it's just like some classic...
I don't understand, like, how they're planning to do that.
They're going to murder him. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, but I just never got... The stakes were never there for me.
I read the end of the third book. Because I had to go back and find another thing that I'll talk about in a minute. But I just happened to read it again. But yeah, so it's just like a very classic, like, paperback fantasy story that is definitely also a D&D module.
Yeah.
It reads like a module. So it was not that interesting. So that's our review. It certainly explains why Ball was running around. Like, he's running around trying to kill the head god and, like, trying to kill off this colorful cast of characters. But there's, like Bane, kind of the biggest, baddest god of evil.
Yeah.
He's
got the best intro scene.
And he's got a lot of personality. He's, like, classically evil. And Mercule, the god of the dead, he's, like weaselly and evil. You know, and he's also got a lot of personality. Ball has literally none. He's just a bad person. And he literally walks around these novels being like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna murder you up. You're gonna die right now.
Yeah, Ball is a... the thing is, you can do that and it be interesting, right? There are certainly works of fiction where you get a murdery guy rolling around. But you got to put a spin on it.
Yeah.
Like, murders you a certain way, maybe. Right?
Well, so here's no, go ahead.
No, yeah, just you gotta have a flavor. But I think Ball's flavor is just, there's just so much murder. It kind of drowns out the other textures and flavors of this murder coffee.
So
we're sipping on
the good old murder coffee. But so here's the interesting thing. There's a little bit of moving away from the novel.
Yeah,
because who doesn't want to move away from this novel? I did a little bit of research on Ball in particular because I wanted to know, you know, after Ball died in the Time of Troubles, and then the Baldur's Gate games happened, and like what happened after that, and what happened before that, right? Like I'm interested in both of those things. So I looked up and found the first writing about Ball, and it is in Dragon Magazine number 54. And if you don't know about Dragon, like for a listener, I know, Danny, that you know about Dragon, but
I do.
It was kind of a DM and players like supplementary fun magazine.
So now, in the issue that you're talking about, because when I guess last read Dragon, which was a little bit ago, there were two publications for Dungeons and Dragons. There was Dungeon and Dragon. Dragon was like the player's magazine, and Dungeon was the Dungeon Master magazine. So was this issue way back in the day? Was this before that publication was like split into two distinct publications?
No, but they've always kind of... I think that like very tight distinction is fairly new in the sense that, that Dungeon was always fully completed like mini adventures. Like that's publishing a mini adventure. There's always, like even in the most recent Dragon stuff, even though I think it's all web now, there's always been stuff like, here's how you run ruins better, and like here's what like an ooze is like, which is
so like tidbit stuff as opposed to fully formed
exactly
DM content. Okay,
like a puzzle piece instead of the whole puzzle, if that makes sense. So this one has like a section on ruins, a section on a thieves guild, like how do you flesh out a thieves guild, things that a cowboy might have, an article about that. So that's the kind of stuff that's in these. But yeah, so this is an early article by Ed Greenwood, and it's called Down to Earth Divinity, one DM's design for a mixed and matched mythos.
Oh, cool.
And so the idea here is he's like, in most Dungeons and Dragons games, you've got like the Priest of Evil, and there's generic evil, and Dungeons and Dragons didn't have like a very good way of you fleshing out your pantheon other than you kind of doing it yourself, right? And so he's saying here's a pantheon, and he's actually just listing out the Forgotten Realms pantheon before it is the Forgotten Realms pantheon. Then he's saying, here are all these people, here's what they do, here's how they interact with one another, here are their enemies, and here's some like personality traits. And so some of them say things like, Maestra says, the Lady of Mysteries, that's her nickname.
Sure.
She's the goddess of magic. She's a greater goddess, and she lives on the plane of Nirvana. So and she's got like a little write-up, like a little small write-up.
Noted Elminster sex haver.
Yeah, noted Elminster sex haver for sure. But for Ball, we just have all the things we learned in Baldur's Gate. Lord of Murder, God of Death. He's a lesser god, though, and he lives in Gehenna.
Which Gehenna is like the fiery kind of demonic plane, right? Wait, it's not demonic, it's the... was that before or after that distinction was made?
It's definitely after, because that's in like the AD&D Monsters Manual.
Yeah, okay.
But so here's his little write-up. So this is the core initial kernel of Ball.
Okay.
Ball strikes unerringly, and his dagger causes the area wounded to wither. Becomes useless, 4 to 12 points of damage. Head will only be affected after rest of body. He rarely appears to worshippers or others, but is depicted by priests as a bloody, mutilated corpse with a feral face and silent movements. It is said that every murder done strengthens Ball. Merkul is Lord of the Dead. Ball is the Lord of Death itself, the act of killing. That paragraph is better characterization of Ball than in the entirety of Shadowdale.
Oh, 100%. The idea of Ball being the physical manifestation of the verb death, right? So there's like the noun death, that's Merkul. But the act of causing death, and like this idea of it's a corpse-like figure. That's cool.
It is cool. So
it's scary.
So fast forward to the year of our Lord 2015. We've got this book called The Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide.
Okay.
So this is new Ball. That's classic Ball. This is new Ball. Okay. The folk of Faerun, so that's like the world, don't normally pray to or acknowledge Ball. He is seen as a deeply evil and destructive deity who hungers for death, meaning the death of any sentient beings through unlawful means. So you can see like the language of D&D changing.
Also really interesting, so like Ball is not satisfied when someone is executed after the magistrate orders it.
No, like justified death.
Okay.
is not good for him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare for anyone but assassins or compulsive killers to take Baal as a patron, and clerics who revere Baal often qualify on both accounts. So they're assassins and compulsive killers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it changed. And so Baal dies.
Yep.
Spoilers. before Baldur's Gate, and depending on what you decide to do over the course of Baldur's Gate, you can either rise to the challenge of Baal or ignore Baal. And that's like the least spoilery way to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right? You can either do one or the other. And but apparently historically, because Baldur's Gate is canon in the Forgotten Realms literature.
Yes.
Like it is those are events that happened. Apparently, no matter what, there is a guy in Baldur's Gate, like after the events of the Baldur's Gate games, who is a child of Baal, and he is the Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate, and he ascends to become Baal. Yeah. So it's the same.
And so that is in 5th edition. That is the explanation for why Baal exists now.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's the weird thing is like there's all this Sarevok stuff. There's all this chosen Baal spawn, the player character, all of that stuff. But canonically, none of that really matters, except Sarevok's plan does eventually come to pass. Just another person.
Well, it's kind of inevitable, right?
Yeah, isn't that weird though?
Yeah, well, they can't. I guess that's the difficulty of making a video game canon. You have to acknowledge the general gist of the video game, but because of all the player choice involved, you can't actually involve the PC as a part of the lore. Mm-hmm. Because, well, at least not in a game where choice is allowed.
You just couldn't give them a name. You would have to say a prominent youth born in Candlekeep or raised in Candlekeep.
Sure, but
you know what I mean?
But what if you're a good character? You wouldn't necessarily become Baal, right?
I think it's ambiguous no matter what. Like there's still your character still lives after Baldur's Gate, right? So
you could have been corrupted
maybe
after the fact. That kind of robs the player of any kind of agency, right? God, we've had this discussion multiple times over David Cage games about players and agency.
Hashtag David Cage. Oh, man, I have a great video of David Cage to show you. Unrelated to this at all.
All right.
But yeah, so I hope this is the lore cast that we did. It's just a little mini episode for fun. I have one extra little tidbit, though, that's not about Baal, even though we love talking about Baal. So Baldur's Gate, the city now, they have a little map in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and there is a little, separate city now. Because, there's, the lower city and the upper city.
Okay.
There's, the inner wall and the outer wall in the game. So now, outside the city, there's a place called Little Kalimshan. Yeah. It's, a little additional city. So I would love for there are all these rumors about Baldur's Gate 3 happening from Beamdog.
If they do that, we're just going to... One of us is going to die of natural causes during this podcast. It's going to be a real bummer.
Take bets right now in the comments.
Who's it going to be?
Say one of us and start putting up numbers.
We won't reveal right now who has an exercise regimen and who doesn't. So just take your best guess.
We also have been recording these years in advance. So we recorded this episode in 2014. So one of us could be dead already.
Oh.
Think about that.
It's true.
Got to do some internet sleuthing. But anyway, I just thought it was cool that Baldur's Gate has developed as a city, canonically. And since the Baldur's Gate games are canon, if we go back to Baldur's Gate, there's going to be an additional cool part of the city that's been built up.
That's going to be interesting. And Kunzelman, you know what I'm really excited about?
What's that?
I'm really excited about Siege of Dragonspear.
I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. We've got some real surprises, some real shakeups for our viewer listeners moving forward next season. I think they're going to be real psyched about it.
What are those? I don't know what they are.
Well, yeah. No, that's why they're surprises.
Oh, God.
I'm just going to spring them on the podcast live.
Oh my God! All right. Well,
By the way, all next season will be broadcast live.
we're going to be broadcast live.
That's the first
We
shake
have
up.
purchased an FM station.
Yeah.
We've purchased what used to be called 99X
Out of Atlanta.
out of Atlanta for the American Southeast. Really expensive. My God, really expensive.
Yeah, so please, we need more of that Patreon money.
Hit that like button, hit that comment button, hit that subscribe button. We need your advertising revenue like ASAP. It's bad.
And movie studios, if you want to make Harry and the Hendersons Harry Returns, we would be more than happy to plug that for you. We are strapped here.
We are strapped because of, once again, our purchase of a radio station. All right, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with a full episode. I don't even know what the visual accompaniment for this episode is. Probably something fun.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Keep it light.
But we'll be back with the first little piece of Siege of Dragonspear, which neither of us have ever played before. We're going in
Blind.
as they say. We're going in.
As they say,
So,
blind.
So thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Au revoir.
Goodbye. Oh, there's going to be a new theme song. Goodbye.
So saith the wise Alondo.